This is Rick and Morty read Reddit comments. Some kind of thing, some noob on the internet thinks that he can just pretend to be voices. Oh, this is what it is. Prepare for a crap show. Rick, so this is, what Neil Gorsuch speech? Trump Hotel raises ethical questions. Yeah, Morty, it's a real shit show in here. You got the New York Times, some kind of reputable news source. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. Alright, as a reminder, this subreddit is for civil discussion. In general, be courteous to others, attack ideas, not users, personal insults, shill or troll accusations, hate speech, and other incivility violations can result in a permanent ban. If you see comments in violation of our rules, please report them. Downvotes in the comment section may be disabled. Please see our post and fact about current research regarding the effect downvotes have on user civility. If you have any questions. Really good job there. Alright. Hey, I'm Western with Mick Westernson. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of the subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I guess that was some kind of Western guy, but he turned into some kind of hotshot Hollywood director or whatever. I don't even know, man. Let's load more comments. Let's see where this goes. It's loading right now. Yay! Oh, that was really worth the time, huh? You spent a lot of time reading that comment right there. It takes a lot of guts. We have to rely on self-restraint, Professor Giller said. Not everything justices can do is something they should do. That's what we're relying on. We're screwed. Gorsuch never should have accepted this stolen seat if he had any morals or ethics. This man needs to be shamed at every public speaking event for as long as he is on the bench. Fake justice. The thief justice. The Russian judge. Any Trump appointee has been tainted. Only the best people, trademark. Drop the, it's cleaner. Justin Timberlake. The heist court. The judge's fraudster. Foist court. Fake judge. He needs to be impeached if the opportunity arises. Crossed out comment. Scottish seats are a lifetime appointment. He can't be removed until he resigns or dies. Apparently I'm wrong. T-I-L. Today I learned. I'm pretty positive you can impeach justices. You absolutely can impeach a sitting Scottish justice. I was unaware of this. Who does the impeaching? Congress and Senate like POTUS? Yes, if you refer to the impeachment clause, you'll note that it specifies basically any federal officer. This article explains the history of the Scottish impeachment process pretty well. The problem, though, is the precedent that would be set. The bench would change every 4 to 8 years. Judges are supposed to remain impartial. But that's not happening if they fear impeachment. President of allowing a thieving traitor bastard like Neil Gorsuch keep his stolen seat and pervert our laws for generations is way, way worse. That's what happens when one side plays by the rules and the other side does anything dirty or corrupt to win. Wait! What treason is Gorsuch guilty of? I don't like him, but I'm sure as hell not gonna throw out the fucking law over this. Same white supremacist treason as every other Republican lawmaker. Holy hyperbole, Batman. Have you been asleep for a month? How is Justice Gorsuch a thief or a traitor? He didn't refuse to allow a hearing on Judge Garland. Gorsuch never stalled the Senate Gorsuch is not at all implicated in the Russian scandal. Calling Justice Gorsuch a thieving traitor bastard is just stupid. Oh, you have to calm down. We have to know how to pronounce that name before we continue. At the second day of the confirmation hearing, March 21st, Senator Tom Tillis asked Judge Neil Gorsuch how to pronounce his last name. So, apparently that's an actual thing. Okay? You need to understand that just because you do something doesn't mean you're the only one. Just because you're some quote-unquote keyboard warrior does not mean that you can just think that everything that you do is highly original, like you're some guy with a recorder, a Zoom H1 recorder, can just talk and expect some kind of notoriety. For everybody in the audience, it's Gorsuch. His pronunciation rhyming with much. Thank you very much, Google. Now that I continue reading these Reddit comments, as important as they are. Now, if you impeach him, not going to happen. They'll just elect another conservative. They stole the seat, and they will keep it. It's honestly one of the most outrageous acts in recent U.S. political history. And there's really nothing to do about it. These Republicans are vile, shitty human beings trying to rig the system at every opportunity. I don't know about that. Will, way, etc. What about the precedent that a Supreme Court seat can be stolen through obstruction? Do nothing and we allow it to stand? 100% agreed. The bench will change every 4 to 8 years. Judges are supposed to remain impartial, but that's not happening if they fear impeachment. End quote. Like I said, a person doesn't just get impeached, though, so I wouldn't consider it something to fear for anybody doing a reasonable job and being a reasonable person. Wrong! He can be impeached! It's debatable now, and the rules can be changed in the future. The court can definitely be stopped. Not true. Supreme Court justices can be impeached. Gorsuch is the single thing Trump and Republicans got done. He is safe for the foreseeable future. ... Sad. So, you're saying the Second Amendment folks can do something about it? You're never going to get Republicans on board. The Dems almost had a supermajority not too long ago. You need 67 votes. The Democrats are not getting that in the next 30 years. Trump could make it happen next year if the right senators were up for re-election. 3 years from now is a good possibility. 538 apiece. That showed basically the Democrats are going to be fucked in the Senate for a while. The number of solid red states is like 26, giving the Republicans a huge advantage. I remember when Bush said his Congress would never turn blue. The biggest obstacle is midterms. Dems just don't turn out for them. Obama had the biggest blue wave in 15 years and barely broke 60. Getting to 67. That's all I want to support, removing Gorsuch no less. Would be a tough battle. They can always stack the court using McConnell's new rules. Man, we gotta get better at messaging. We have objectively the worst president in living memory, playing fast and loose with our country, our people, and our planet. Surely there must be something we can do besides surrendering all these seats. We should be trying senators to the fucking rails for betraying the public trust. Fuck messaging. They better start listening to the Democratic base. Message writes itself after that. The Democrats are going to fulfill the American promise. After 60 years of incredible growth that has mostly gone to Wall Street and corporate executives, we're going to help working Americans achieve the American dream. The dream that says that if you work hard, you'll not just survive, you'll thrive.
That means working together to build modern infrastructures and modern government. We're going to connect all Americans to 21st century technology and the job opportunities that provides. We're going to cut out bureaucratic bloat and ensure that our laws and regulations do more good than harm. We're going to actually prosecute corruption, graft, and abuse of power. And yes, we're going to ask the Americans who have already succeeded in this, the greatest nation and greatest economy on earth, to pay for most of it. Look, I love capitalism, and our country is home to the boldest entrepreneurs on the planet. But you can't ignore that millions of our fellow citizens are working as hard as ever, but are falling behind. Republicans say poor people are lazy and just want handouts. But I say any American who works hard, I don't care if he's stocking shelves, driving a bus, sweating his butt off doing construction, teaching our children, or protecting our streets, deserves a danged raise. It's time to fulfill our promises. Yup. Yep, it's pretty damn frustrating that on top of gerrymandering and voter ID, Republicans are practically guaranteed at least a simple majority for the foreseeable future because the 32 people that live in Wyoming get to have as much of a say as the 39 millions in America. GOP states go in the shitter due to GOP policies. Young people, liberals, move to a state that isn't fucked to pursue opportunities, and GOP supporters are left behind, further entrenching the GOP and their Senate majority.
He's only speaking to conservatives. That's why we give judges lifetime roles, so they're not influenced by money or partisan politics.
It's up to us to define his legacy.
No, it isn't! There's nothing in the Constitution about the people having any power or mechanism over him or any other justices that croak or retire. With this man-child around, we're stuck under Gorsuch for at least 20 to 30 years at the least.
He can be impeached if the opportunity arises. Only one ever has been impeached, and that was acquitted of all charges. So good luck with that. I bet you think you can change Nazis' minds with your logic too? Question mark?
I think you can pack the court. I bet you think you can change Nazis' minds with your logic too. Excuse me. What the fuck does that have to do with being legally able to impeach a Scottish member? You're living in a dreamland. Actually, several judges have been impeached and more than one has been removed. Doesn't mean we can't define his legacy. He's already tainted, and he's only making himself worse. I'm sure that ruining his legacy would be worth it for all the lives his decision ruined. You can't pay the bills with ruining legacies. Yep, Gorsuch, a thief appointed by a traitor. If the ethical questions it raises is this an undeniable case of clear corruption? Then the answer is a resounding yes. Neil Gorsuch. Asterisks. Off topic from this, but I hope there's something in the books that allows us to remove this man once Trump is removed from office. This is one of the biggest stains of Trump's tenure, and it needs to be fixed. I'm almost sure there's nothing that lets us do that. If Gorsuch commits a crime, he can be impeached. That is about it. Any crime at all? Or does it have to be a felony or something? Impeachment can be for anything legislators deem necessary. But that doesn't equate to removal or conviction. It's the equivalent of an indictment. It's a formal bringing of charges against the executive. Then it's up to the Senate. If they all give the thumbs up, executive is impeached. So, there's no real guideline as to what it can be for, other than it must be something you can get both houses of Congress to affirm. So, obviously nothing trivial. Clinton is a great example of that. Sure, there were enough people to try and impeach him for sexual impropriety, but not enough to convict him of it.
doesn't have to commit a crime. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Samuel Chase #impeachment. He should resign during the next Dem president. Justices can't be impeached. You have to prove he did something wrong himself, though, not just that he was appointed by a criminal, like being blatantly biased in favor of the person he's supposed to keep in check. Hard to prove, unfortunately. An actual exchange of money or items of monetary value, such as the use of an expensive speaking venue, would be better. Maybe this will be a part of Mueller's investigation. If the trail goes there, absolutely. Mueller has no bounds on his investigation. His only requirement is that he follows the trail. No, it won't.
This is an absurd and irresponsible smear against a distinguished justice. Gorsuch should not occupy his current position, but that is the fault of Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party. Gorsuch's character and conduct is, as far as I can tell, unassailable.
He literally ruled that a man should have died to protect his employer's property. If Gorsuch cared about the integrity of the court, he could have declined the nomination and endorsed Merrick Garland as the proper nominee. No ethical judge would have accepted that nomination.
Trump is proving the majority can do whatever they want, including changing the rules. The next administration adds 2 more SCOTUS apologies to cancel this one out. Not that I think they would or should do this, but it is an impossibility, stacking the bench. Seems like a slippery slope to have a dozen of justices if politics keep going the way it's been lately. Absolutely. It would be an outright disaster. You'd have to get to a point where you could push through a constitutional amendment to cap the SCOTUS seats to stop it at that point. Again, a very bad idea.
It's only been done once, and he was acquitted of all charges. So, good luck with that. Trump has been flaunting his violation of the emoluments clause since day one. The laws don't apply to them anymore.
Don't think they do. Congress can pretty much impeach anyone they confirmed. But, much like a presidential impeachment, it would require bipartisan support, barring a super-duper majority in the Senate. I think accepting a stolen seat proves you don't have the ethics needed to serve on the court. Even if he was appointed by a president that is found, will be found, he won the election because of foreign influence. Elected illegitimately? I'll delay being upset until he cowardly refuses to recuse himself.
Canon 2. A judge should avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all activities. A. Respect for law. A judge should respect and comply with the law and should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. B. Outside influence. A judge should not allow family, social, political, financial, or other relationships to influence judicial conduct or judgment. A judge should neither lend the prestige of the judicial office to advance the private interests of the judge or others, nor convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence the judge. A judge should not testify voluntarily as a character witness. C. Non-discriminatory membership. A judge should not hold membership in any organization that practices invidious discrimination on the basis of race, sex, religion, or national origin.
Applying the relevant judicial standard, there aren't any issues with this speech. Still a fake justice. Could you explain in greater detail? I'm incredulous that this is just fine and dandy. Judges police themselves, so if they don't have a problem with their own behavior, it's perfectly alright. He isn't getting paid by Trump. He was invited by a legal organization of the sort justice routinely gives speeches to.
The fact that they are renting space at a Trump property isn't enough to create a conflict. For example, I have been to a Ginsburg speech in a Hilton. No one would ever think the fact Ginsburg spoke in a Hilton hotel to the American Constitution Society would render her incapable of ruling on a Hilton hotel case. I just don't think that is a fair comparison. For one, this involves the president, which in my mind should require a much higher ethical standard than hotels. For two, Trump goes out of his way to be corrupt. Just assuming that nothing fishy is going on is naive. For three, this increases the value of Trump Tower and further aligns Gorsuch with the president rather than his office. I don't think that's okay. We have gone from jealous defenders of democracy to being okay with scouts, Justice. Giving speeches at the president's property. Insane.
1. The ethical problem here is with Donald Trump not divesting from his real estate holdings, and the fact that conservative groups like this, and other groups, can essentially bribe him by staying at hotels. There is no ethical dilemma for Gorsuch. Gorsuch is a man of unimpeachable integrity. I may disagree with his judicial philosophy and with the way he got his seat. It is wrong to assume that he is doing anything improper. He has a lifetime of service to his country.
Unimpeachable integrity.
Yeah, that's why he accepted a position stolen from a guy he defended in the past. We must have different definitions of integrity.
They are renting space at a Trump property, which may not actually result in influence, however,
nor convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence the judge, means that this is clearly in violation of the code of conduct. This clearly conveys an impression that Trump is in a special position to influence Gorsuch and that they have some form of special relationship, even if it does not actually constitute such a relationship.
I hate to appeal to authority here, but I am familiar with the relevant rules, but bar ethics opinions and judicial precedent, this does not convey the impression of improper influence within the meaning of the code. It isn't close. If Trump personally paid him, that would do it. But merely speaking of Trump's hotel does not. This does not convey the impression of improper influence within the meaning of the code. It isn't close. So in other words, convey the impression means anything but convey the impression. If Trump personally paid him, that would do it. So, you just need a third party to be a go-between, and then you're totally set? Sounds dumb enough to be true. Merely speaking in Trump's hotel does not. This is what, not merely speaking in Trump's hotel. Gorsuch is landing the prestige of having a Supreme Court justice as a speaker to a group that is paying Trump himself through his hotel. It creates all kinds of issues over the relationship between Trump, Gorsuch, and this group and the influences exerted by each party on the others. Then you have the issue of Gorsuch not speaking for this, or any other group, in the future which decides to have a conference take place at a hotel that doesn't belong to Trump. So, if he were paid for the speech, that'd be completely illegal, right? Just like if he'd stolen his seat on the bench. To be fair, anyone in that seat would be sitting in a stolen seat, outside of Obama's appointees. The GOP stole the seat. Yup, but he chose to occupy it. And it says all that needs to be said about his integrity. All that needs to be said about his integrity can be said with just one press of the space bar. No, just unethical. The code isn't law, and SCOTUS judges can and often do ignore the code. Not defending this. It's complete bullshit. But like most things, when it comes to government, the rules have no teeth. Now, violations of the code will be stated as grounds for impeaching a judge, which is hardly ever done. Some more, in case people are interested. Canon 2A, an appearance of impropriety occurs when reasonable minds, with knowledge of all the relevant circumstances disclosed by a reasonable inquiry, would conclude that the judge's honesty, integrity, impartiality,
temperament or fitness to serve as a judge is impaired. Public confidence in the judiciary is eroded by irresponsible or improper conduct by judges. A fed judge must avoid all impropriety and appearance of impropriety. This prohibition applies to both professional and personal conduct. A judge must expect to be the subject of constant public scrutiny and accept freely and willingly restrictions that might be viewed as burdensome by the ordinary citizen. Because it is not practicable to list all prohibited acts, the prohibition is necessarily cast in general terms that extend to conduct by judges that is harmful, although not specifically mentioned in the code. Actual improprieties under this standard include violations of law, court rules, or other specific provisions of this code.
Impeach, 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 impeach.
So, Clarence Thomas should be gone too, since his wife lobbied for Citizens United? Yup, that was very controversial. Unfortunately, nobody with any authority has pursued this matter. Wait, what the fuck? Actually, I may have misremembered some details. Apparently, she didn't lobby for Citizens United, just directly benefit from it due to her starting a Tea Party lobbying group. Sounds like a reason he should recuse himself from cases involving Trump policy if he goes through with the speech. This actually doesn't apply to Supreme Court justices. It should, but it doesn't. No code of ethics applies to Supreme Court justices. Link is https://journal.
Apparently, the Scottish justices generally follow the same rules, but there's no obligation that forces them to. New Yorker article on this. So, public backlash might be the only influence possible, however great or small that might be. Some of the conservative justices, like Thomas and Scalia, didn't follow the ethics rules. Thomas, not surprisingly, has been the worst offender. They play with fire every time they do this. They undercut the public faith in the court system. A history tells us, once public faith drops below a certain level, alternative parallel judicial systems will appear and gain popularity. As history tells us, once public faith drops below a certain level, alternative parallel judicial systems will appear and gain popularity.
Do you have some examples? I'd like to read about this since I'm curious about how this would come about. Sure. The extrajudicial non-governmental Sharia courts and tribunals currently at large in certain rural regions of some Middle Eastern countries, the same kind that Trump supporters are so paranoid about having here. Since America still has plenty of public faith in its court system at this time, the nearest domestic examples would be small-scale localized refusals to use or recognize the existing court system. This influenced the so-called sovereign citizen movement, Scientology, and some fundamentalist churches. At its most granular level, even an episode of vigilante justice would indicate that the participants did not believe that the court system would be adequate to satisfy them. French Revolution? That's outrageous!
That's outrageous! That's outrageous! That's outrageous! That's outrageous!
I was going to say, Scalia took up conservative causes all the time without anyone able to stop him. I mean, he was generally a piece of shit, so that shouldn't surprise anyone. It's deeply unfortunate that the code of conduct isn't legally binding. I understand that position of a judge/justice requires giving them significant leeway,
But there should be some kind of neutral body that can arbitrate complaints about issues like this. Unless you had your fingers crossed when you illegitimately stole your seat on the bench, I'm Alex Jones. I type in all caps with bold. Justice Thomas is married to a lobbyist. That kind of set the bar high on this. Fascist Mr. Rogers didn't waste a moment before bellying up to the wingnut welfare, though, huh? Remember how he was so immensely self-righteous and outraged earlier this year at his hearings when anyone asked him any question at all about his ethical framework? He was so deeply aggrieved and powerfully offended and very disappointed that these Congress people would dare to question his deep reservoir integrity. Fucking LOL. Hope we manage to impeach his ass one day soon. And now, a southern drawl. Fascist Mr. Rogers here didn't waste a moment before bellying up to the wingnut welfare trough, huh? And now, Scooby-Doo. Oh, yeah, Shaggy. Fascist Mr. Rogers didn't waste a moment before bellying up the wingnut welfare trough, huh? Yeah, Scoob! Fascist Mr. Rogers here didn't waste a moment before bellying up to the wingnut welfare trough, huh? Fascist Mr. Rogers here didn't waste a moment before bellying up the wingnut welfare trough, huh? Oh, yes. Fascist Mr. Rogers here didn't waste a moment before bellying up to the wingnut welfare trough, huh? Rachel has her story tonight. Fake-ass judge. Who is paying him for his speech? The man is a walking ethical dilemma. We shouldn't even know this guy's name. Knowing the names of the Supreme Court justices is fine. More people, myself included, should know more names in the high levels of government. What we shouldn't know is which party he votes for. One can infer which party a justice belongs to by how they rule and their statements, but there is a difference in inferring that and knowing for a fact. I think everybody should be informed enough to know the judges sitting on the 10th Circuit, but that is probably unreasonable. I'd be happy if people knew about the federal court system. Just a 30,000-foot view. A Trump nominee doing something ethically questionable? You don't say! I still don't understand how the Scottish has become all but immune to the practice of impeachment. All that's required is the appearance of an impropriety of partisanship. It's in the frickin' Constitution, and nobody even knows it. Yet we have Gorsuch openly getting paid by partisan sources at a place owned by a president, and Thomas failing to report household income dependent on partisan lobbying. From bodies with cases before the court, no less. What the fuck? It's time to send a clear message that the lifelong term does not come without serious ethical scrutiny.
Him being a Supreme Court justice raises ethical questions. How many times do ethical questions need to be raised before we can just unethical administration does another thing unethically?
Neil Gorsuch? Merrick Garland! This is a massive issue, and people are not upset enough about this. How can we expect a Supreme Court justice to faithfully fulfill his duties when he's chumming around at the president's hotel? This is absurd. It is a total violation of his position. He needs to impeach and forced out immediately. Some Dems need to champion his removal over this. Simply being a stolen seat wasn't enough for action, but that is about as corrupt as a justice can be. Ho 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 ha ho! I'm Johnny Bravo. I wonder if the Democrats will seek impeachment of Gorsuch when they take over Congress. Hoo ha hoo! Oh hey.
Hey, I'm Peter Griffin. Ironically, that's totally a good Peter Griffin accent. That's because I'm Peter. I'm Peter Griffin. I'm totally from Boston. Actually, no more for like the New England area, more like Rhode Island. Ironically, though, and now apparently I'm like some kind of Jewish Bostonian with a British accent. Ironically, the only thing Gorsuch should do to prove he deserves his Supreme Court seat would be to give it up and resign. And now we got to talk like this. And it is. Because there was no particular thought Gorsuch had any ethics. Gorsuch will always be the ethics justice. He's a working, talking, ethical question. I don't understand how a Supreme Court judge doesn't see how this unethical behavior of all people. What made you think he was ethical in the first place? At this point, news outlets should start reporting on anything related to Trump that does not raise ethical questions. That would be news to me. Ethical questions. What are those again? After they get rid of the Trumpster, fire this guy should be next. Is it not 100% known that Gorsuch is yet another Trump opportunist, hoping that his time in power will outweigh the shame that would follow him into eternity? The man is a walking ethical question. Let's start with how he got the job in the first place. In all the news, ethical questions apparently now considered not worth changing behavior. Impeach him. So basically, Gorsuch wants to uphold the status quo with regard to his reputation.
This is Sparta! What? 9,000? There's no way that could be right.
This is the best TLDR I can make. Original reduced by 73%. I'm a bot. It is unfortunate that President Trump has decided to disregard basic conflict of interest principles, Professor Lubey said. But I do not see anything wrong with Justice Gorsuch speaking publicly at the hotel. Richard W. Painter,
A lawyer for people and groups suing Mr. Trump over what they say are violations of the Constitution's emolument clauses, declined to comment on Justice Gorsuch's scheduled speech, saying the status of the hotel was at issue with the litigation.
The place and time of Justice Gorsuch's speech next month presented different questions, Professor Gillers said, adding that the justice should have been more sensitive to how the public could interpret his appearance at the Trump Hotel not long before arguments in the travel ban case.
Par for the course with Republicans. Ethics don't apply to them.
Well, no shit, it raises ethical questions. You mean Neil Gorsuch, the guy who has his job because of unethical behavior, is himself engaging in unethical behavior? I don't believe it. Do you think this whole goddamn presidency raises ethical questions? Stop calling him Gorsuch. His name is Cocksuch. This excuse for a man is a disgrace to the office of Supreme Justice. He is owned. He is a mouthpiece, or cock holster, if you prefer. 147 more replies. And that concludes our afternoon of 41 minutes long reading of comments in ridiculously stupid voices. I'm your host and hostessin. Rick, what the fuck was that? Oh, I don't know, Morty. I just don't give a fuck anymore. I just don't give a fuck.